Hey everyone, coming to you from Red River, New Mexico, and have the honor and the privilege of working on a veterans retreat for people struggling with PTS and post-traumatic stress. And and yesterday, one of the facilitators, who's awesome, really inspiring, he was talking about something he calls Mind the Gap, a tool that he calls Mind the Gap, and it was really cool because it was a coincidence, and apparently it's in this book, which I've never read, but this is something that I've talked to, and I've called it the same thing with people over the years. However, I have a little bit of a different take to it, but it's similar. So I wanted to share it with you today because I think it's super helpful and super important. And so one of the things that we talk about in really getting free and really having an awesome life is taking 100% responsibility, right? Taking 100% responsibility as long as we are willing to blame, as long as we are willing to say this, that, or the other thing, my past, you, my upbringing, my misfortune, all things, while potentially valid and real and maybe wrong and awful and worthy of empathy and consideration and compassion and all that stuff. But if I allow those things to influence my life, as opposed to being the dominant influence in my life that is creating the conditions that I desire for the future, as opposed to recreating or reacting the conditions of my past, then we're not gonna live the life that we want to live. So, 100% responsibility for my thoughts, feelings, actions, experiences, okay? And so one of the things that means is the willingness to mind the gap. And what do I mean by that? In any given moment, we need to respond to the situation as it is instead of bringing our history to it. And so in any given moment, the situation is here, right? Sorry, I'm holding my phone in the other hand, so I don't have the other hand. But we react to it here. Have you ever had that experience? Raise your hand if you've had that experience. The situation is really here. Someone cuts you in line at the grocery store, but your reaction is, motherfucker. Well, the gap is based on your history. The gap is based on maybe a feeling that you've been slighted in the world, or maybe whatever. Maybe you're in a rush. Maybe you have someplace to go. So we add our history, we add our interpretation, we add our perceptions, we add our projections, we add our assumptions, we add our beliefs, we add our conditioning, and we don't just respond to with perhaps the appropriate responses. Excuse me, sir, but you cut me, and normally I wouldn't mind, but I really have someplace I need to get going. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take my rightful place in the line. That's appropriate, right? So I'm not saying that we don't respond to the situation. I'm not saying that we don't assert our own position. I'm not saying that we let other people take advantage of us. I'm not saying that we let anyone hurt us. The energy of the situation might be up here, in which case someone is really actually threatening our life force, and we might have to defend ourselves with some more intense means. But the point is that we are responding to the actual situation, not bringing the gap of our history. And this is really common in partnerships, in relationships, when people are arguing, or when we walk into the bathroom, and when we're in a good space, we're in a good heart space, and the cap is off the toothpaste, we just put it back on. We don't even think about it. We don't care. But when we got our history rolling, she always does that. She's doing it just to piss me off. She knows I don't like it. Well, then that's a huge gap. And what we often look to do from the world and from others and from our partners is for them to take responsibility for the gap, and for them to shrink the gap and close the gap for us by not doing those things that piss us off. No, that's not going to work. Ultimately, we need to take 100% responsibility for our gap. And so we can ask ourselves, hopefully we can pause and we can step back in situations like this and say, is is my response really appropriate to what's actually happening? And we might need to do all sorts of tools. We might need to do breathing exercises or take a walk or splash cold water on our face. There's any number of things that we can do in the gap. But the first thing we need to do is recognize this philosophy that the gap is our responsibility. The gap is 100% our responsibility. And as long as we are asking the world or anyone else to shrink the gap for us, then we are losing our power. The gap, actually, when we transform the gap, becomes the very fuel for our awesome life. And we need to shrink the gap, transform the gap, eat the gap, digest the gap, transform the gap, turn the gap into gold, turn lead into gold, turn shit into gold, in order to have an awesome life. We grow from this stuff. We don't necessarily grow, although we enjoy it, we don't necessarily grow a tremendous amount from like the easy stuff, but we grow from taking that gap and saying, oh, that's mine. I'm going to be the person that I want to be anyway. Okay? I'm going to be the best person that I want to be anyway. I'm going to be think, feel, and act in line with my integrity and my values anyway. Despite what gap I'm bringing, I'm going to close the gap myself, and then I'm going to step up and put the cap back on the toothpaste and go on my day in a happy way. All right, that's it for today. I'm not making as many videos while I'm up here on this retreat, but I'll be back in a few days. And hi, Mom, and I'll see you soon. Love you all. Have a great day.